Hello and welcome to the MSTieCast. I'm your host, Toby Mobius, and today we have a very special guest with us. No discussion topic, just an interview, and my first solo interview on the show. So this is going to be very exciting, doubly so because of our guest. If you are familiar with the Riff Tracks, then you should know the name, even if you don't quite know the face if you haven't seen it. Incognito Cinema Warriors XP is a incredibly popular and very, very well done Mystery Science Theater homage series, which you can find at rifftracks.com. And here I have the host, and from what I can gather, the brains of the outfit, Mr. Rikk Wolf.
Hello, thanks for having me on.
It is no trouble at all, and we've had this in the works for quite a while now, I believe.
Yeah, well before Christmas.
Yeah, but, you know, things came up, Christmas happened, the apocalypse happened.
Yeah. And you're based out of Georgia, is it?
Yes, near Atlanta, Georgia.
Wow, you're so the new hotbed of the zombie apocalypse.
Yeah, it's getting tough to avoid Sheriff Rikk. He keeps thinking I'm a zombie just because I'm really pale, and I keep eating forest animals and small children. But
well, who can't relate to that? Yeah, well, thanks for having me on. It's really cool to be here. We're gonna chat about some MST3K.
What was that? I thought we were talking about Mystery Science Theater.
Oh, I have heard that before. That's when the conversation's over.
I'm just going to walk away now and pretend I didn't hear that.
Yeah, I can't deal with that.
Yes, on the topic of Mystery Science Theater, as this is the MSTieCast, how did you get in to MST3K?
Well, you know, it's funny. I always hesitate to tell people this, but I actually never really got to watch the show while it was on the air. I never had cable when I was growing up. I had a buddy. I lived on the outskirts of this little town in Missouri called Plattsburgh, and it was just too much of a hassle to get cable out where I lived, so my folks never sprang for it. I had a buddy, lived in town, and I think I would see little snippets of MST3K playing when I would, go over and hang out with that guy. But it never really hit me. So that was back when I was in high school. And years later, a buddy of mine gifted me a copy of the re-release colorized edition of Night of the Living Dead. And I always listen to directors' commentaries. It's just a guilty pleasure of mine. I love listening to that sort of stuff. And lo and behold, there was the solo Mike Nelson riff tracks as one of the alternate audio commentaries. And I started listening to that, and about 3 or 4 minutes into it, I was like, he's kind of ragging on this movie. What's going on? And I think Mike made the comment that there's a shot where the camera just kind of, for no reason, just goes scattershot off into the tree branches in the cemetery, and Mike just makes some kind of comment about the cinematographer getting interested in a squirrel or something like that. And I was like, that's a goofy comment. And then I went and looked at the name and put 2 and 2 together. I was like, oh, that was the host of Mystery Science Theater. And from there, I went and just started getting a few episodes on DVD, and from there it was just that's when it hit me, was when, oh, this is my show. I just completely binge and purged on MST3K at that point.
I was very much the same way in that I didn't see when it was on TV.
Yeah.
But I have the excuse that I was in elementary school.
There you go.
So I'm nearly 20 years old. So when it was on, I did see it on, but I didn't get it. I didn't get the point of the show. So
sure.
I'm like, this is stupid. I'm gonna watch Ed, and Eddie.
Yeah, that's a whole other bag right there.
So, now now that it's on YouTube and I have Netflix and everything, then they took it off Netflix. But now that it's available to me on the internet, I've become very much into the show, and as you can tell, I have a deep love for the show.
Obviously, yes. Yeah, it's a lot more accessible to people now than it was, just a few years ago, which is very cool. With MST3K, it seems like there's very little gray area. When you get it, you really, really get it, and you really, really love it.
And if you don't, it's just puppets talking in front of the movie, and you wish they'd be quiet.
Exactly, yeah. I've seen enough blank stares from both, from certain people, like from both our show and MST3K, and I'm like, oh, this isn't for you. That's okay. Not that many, thankfully.
Actually, out of curiosity, what would you say is the reason the show has lasted as long in the popular consciousness as it has? Like, why do you think the show keeps garnering fans and viewers?
Um, I'd say fiercely loyal fans. I mean, the show just really resonated for whatever reason with the people that it did when it was on, and that just has never gone away. There's not a whole lot of shows you can say that about. On a personal note, I think for me the reason that I continue to love it and always will is sort of the camaraderie you feel with Mike or Joel and the bots, and that's what's made it a mainstay for my viewing habits. Is just you. After a while, after you get used to their voices and watching it, there seems to be, like, off to the left of Tom, there's a fourth person in the theater, and that's you, and you really feel like you're hanging out with your best buds, and they just happen to be the most hilarious human beings on the planet. So that's why it's always. So that's why it's doesn't go for more than a few weeks before I check out an episode. So.
I would have never described it as you were the fourth person in the theater, but now that I think about it, that makes a lot of sense.
That's how I feel when I watch.
I've never really noticed that before, but since you brought it up, Joel or Mike?
Whenever I get asked this question, I always say Joikey. And I saw on your nicely redesigned website that up in the left corner there's like the Twitter account, and it's Joikey. Robin Nelson. Yeah, and I was like, oh, that's not as clever as I thought it was. Both of them have their charms. I love both hosts. I mean, you got to give it to Joel for making the show, and to me, it's more of a personal preference thing. And I'll be Captain Political and not say, but there are the episodes that I gravitate more toward one or the other, and it's not necessarily because of the host. But, yeah, you're not going to get a straight answer from me on this. So.
That's fine. That's fair.
Yeah.
I personally, I prefer Joel as a host, but I tend to prefer Mike's episodes just because they were further in and they had more time to really discover what worked and what didn't. Do you have a favorite host segment from your time watching the series?
Oh, I do, and I do this kind of routine every year where I dedicate about a month of just I watch every single episode, and it's coming up on the time for me to do that, so I'm not as appraised as everything's not as fresh in my head as it is. I believe it's on. Gosh, what's the name of that flick they did? Guy goes back in time through hypnosis, and it's got the devil in it. It's on the tip of my tongue.
The Undead. That's
yes, yes. Thank you. A bit they do at the very end, and it's one of those Crow segments where Crow dresses up as something from the movie and has a bit of an identity crisis, and it's just a small thing. He's playing an imp from the film, and he's just screaming, "I'm an imp!" like he's a meth head, just completely out of his mind. And just something about Bill Corbett's voice that has just always made me erupt into laughter. It's just such a small, subtle thing. Most people don't have the reaction I do to it. But that's it. Yeah, black and white movie. It's got Digger Smoking in it, doing his bit, the old grave digger guy. Yeah, that's what... I don't know if I could say that's my favorite host segment, but off the top of my head, that's where my brain goes, so maybe it is subconsciously. I don't know.
It does definitely stick out in one's head.
Yeah, that was a great one for me.
Yeah. For me, it's probably Time Chasers, when Crow goes back in time to the cheese factory and meets young Mike.
Sure, that's a great one.
That one, or in Werewolf, where Mike is becoming the Werecrow.
Oh, yeah, sure, that's a great one, too. Warwolf.
Warwolf.
You is Warwolf.
Yes, he is. Do you have a favorite character on MST3K? And this can be, just a walk-in character, like a joke character, or...
Well, as far as just kind of walk-in joke characters go, I'd probably have to go with Mike's Torgo. I mean, that's...
The classic.
The classic, yeah. That was interesting. I saw Riff Tracks live when they did Manos a few months ago, and they had that guy who's... I believe they're filming a jokey sequel to Manos, or they already have. I think it's actually out, and they had somebody else playing him aside from Mike. That was kind of trippy to see.
Rupert Munch, that's his name.
Yeah, but it's so tough to choose between any of the main characters. But I do seem to get a pretty big kick out of Bill Corbett as Crow, because when Bill Corbett took over as Crow, he suddenly had a much shorter fuse, which I think is something they actually just flat out said on the show. And I like Crow when he's angry. He makes me laugh. So
Angry Crow is probably the best Crow.
yeah, that's how I like.
Go home, Joe.
Gosh, yeah, Angry Crow. It's probably have to be my favorite. Close second is Mike, but I probably just identify with him because through my own show, I know what it's like to be surrounded by people on crotch height with very sharp things. So.
Could you repeat that? That was there was a bit of dip in the audio.
Oh sure. I probably identify with Mike more, not just because I'm human, but because from doing my own show, I know what it's like to have people at crotch height waving puppets around nearby. So.
As a puppeteer, I sympathize with that from the other end.
yeah, you have the shorter end of that stick, that's for sure. I've had to do a few little inserts with the puppets, puppeteering them myself, because we'll cut around to different camera angles now, and that's not fun. One of our puppets is actually, we've never weighed him, but we're guessing it's about 30 pounds or so. Yeah, it's not fun.
Yeah, most of the puppets I've had to do are plush or baby dolls on strings. So
that's heaven. That's where you get to go when you die on our show. And then if you were a good puppeteer, that's your heaven. You get that. Most of our puppets are very heavy, so.
Yeah. Now, as you were not someone who watched it while it was on, retrospectively, do you prefer the Comedy Central or the Sci-Fi era shows?
Well, I definitely love both. I watch both quite a bit, but when it comes down to the dichotomy of Comedy Central or Sci-Fi era, I do find myself watching the Sci-Fi era ones a little more frequently. I know the Misties themselves weren't too happy with the mandate that there was supposed to be a story, but I enjoyed the continuity of Mike is the world destroyer and traveling around in time, and Bobo the gorilla burning down Rome, and that playing into where they went and stuff like that. Even if it was campy, it still was. I enjoyed having. I guess what I'm trying to say is I'm a sucker for to be continued, even in any format. So I do gravitate towards the Sci-Fi era a little more, I'd have to say.
Yeah, like most of my favorite episodes are actually Sci-Fi era episodes, and I do enjoy the story. I do having that. There is a world outside of Deep 13 and the Satellite of Love.
Yeah, and that's something we really adopted in the quote-unquote second season of our show. And
very much so.
Yeah, to the 10th degree.
Well, getting into your show at last.
Oh no.
When you were starting out, did you attempt to emulate the show as it was, like a lot of other fan films, like Mystery Fandom Theater, or did you intentionally try to do something different?
Well, that's actually a tough question, because we obviously wanted to have skits with humor based off of the film, and then riffing. So in that sense, it was going to be that format. But yes, as far as every other detail aside from those things goes, we wanted to make it very different. We came up with completely new characters, a whole new reason for them to be subjected to the films, a whole new situation scenario, and we injected it more and more as we went along with our own sense of humor. We obviously went to the Joel Hodgson and Mike Nelson School of Riffing. So the further back you go, probably the less of our own identity we have. But we definitely wanted it to be our own thing from the very get-go, as much as we could could make it.
Was there any real impetus? Say that again. Was there any real impetus behind putting the show during a zombie apocalypse?
Um, yeah, I'm a huge zombie nerd, and I get to be extra cool because I like zombies before they got cool. I'm sure everybody says that, but I just
Fixing your hipster glasses as you say it.
yeah, yeah. Thankfully, no. I just turned 30 this year, so there's my, I can show you my driver's license. And like I like zombies before they were all over Hot Topic. So I was a huge zombie freak, and basically, I don't know if it was intentional or not in the beginning, but Incognito is basically everything I loved as a kid, just mashed into a big mashed potato salad of personal happiness for me. You know, we throw a lot of video game jokes in there. The robots are very Mega Man inspired. We have the backdrop of the zombie apocalypse, and we riff movies. So it's three or four of my favorite things all tossed in a blender. And some people seem to think it works. I like it.
Speaking of the bots, I know one of them is a toy, isn't it? What?
Yeah.
Is it? I'm trying to think of the name of the toy.
Is it the silver one? The
yes.
Robot? Yeah, that's his torso was taken from one of those Robo Sapien.
That was it.
Yeah. We've since modded him quite a bit so that now it's just the torso and the arms are from the Robo Sapien, and the rest are just, you know, let's see, his legs now are vegetable slicers, I think, or something to that effect. And the rest are kind of just random parts. His head is a Spider-Man 3 foam ball, which I actually spent about 20 minutes on the phone with the manufacturers today because his head's starting to show some serious decay. So we're frantically trying to track down these balls, and it's
oh my!
Damn choice. Well played.
I am 12.
Well played, sir. So yeah, we can't track these things down. It's like they made 3 of them and I bought all 3. It's like they never existed. So we're actually trying to track down this guy who did kind of vacuum forming and molding for MST3K towards the end of their run on Sci-Fi when they were running out of bot parts. We're going to see if he can't make a resin casting of this one spare head we have. So the bots are a big assortment of toys and other stuff. They're definitely kit bashing.
Well, you know, you can always collect your fans, see if they have any of those parts.
Yeah.
And I believe that's what MST3K did late into the show when they were running out of bot parts.
Mm-hmm.
And then didn't need them anymore.
Yeah, we just today posted a picture of the spare ball that we do still have. That it's got a botched paint job, so we can't use it. But there's a little bit of the Spider-Man logo left on it. We posted that to Facebook today. And we're like, does anybody have one of these laying around in their garage? We're kind of in a bad way here. So
I'll look in my basement, but I don't think so.
Let's push those bodies out of the way. Oh, Spider-Man 3 ball.
Woo! See,
yeah.
Crystal Pepsi. Yeah, actually, knowing my basement, I probably do have a bottle of Crystal Pepsi down there.
Nice.
My family are pack rats.
Oh man, I can relate.
But you know, that helps me out.
Why do you need this Sears catalog from 1985, Mom?
I read it just for the articles, I swear.
That's right. But yeah, hopefully somebody can point us in the right direction. But I actually would like to find somewhere to cast them so we can have lots of extra ones, and something that's more durable than foam would be nice.
Yeah. What? But tell me about the other bots. Like, what were the impetuses behind their designs?
Well, they all started off as just sort of sketches, and then it was many trips to Walmart and Home Depot to like look for things that looked like my drawing. It's kind of a backwards way to build something, but the first robot we came up with, which was Topsy, he was actually kind of a silly idea at first. He was supposed to be kind of a cyborg, but the human part of him had gotten the zombie virus and it turned into or what we call reanimates on the show. They're zombies. And scrapped that, and we just went full bore robot. And he's supposed to... All the robots on the show, we're in a movie theater, and the robots were built to, basically act as mechanical employees in the movie theater. And Topsy's deal was he was just supposed to be what's called a concession bot, and he would sort of float around, and his head's full of popcorn, and his torso is actually a working Slurpee maker that we used. And he was just supposed to float around so people could, oh, popcorn there, sort of serving hors d'oeuvres, but it was, nasty movie theater food. So that was sort of his inspiration. Johnny, which is the silver puppet we just talked about, he's supposed to be an usher bot, and he's very polite at the beginning of the show, and he would just do what an usher does. And we have a new robot in season 3, which is called Flex Namtari, and he was built. He's very 80s inspired, and he actually never got fully activated, but his intention was to sort of be the security for the arcade in the movie theater, which coincidentally never got built. So he has no purpose, and that's kind of a big part of his character is he doesn't know what to do with himself, so he kind of sits around and drinks whiskey and smokes cigars and never has anything very nice to say about his situation. So I'm pretty happy with how the way they've all come out. Most of them are a nightmare while we're shooting, but it's weird. You do get attached to them, and you kind of attach the voice actor with the puppet when you see it. It's kind of creepy, but in a way it's very nice to be able to connect with them that way.
Very nice. And actually, now that you mentioned the Mega Man influence, and I really can see it actually.
Really?
On
Okay.
the latest pod.
Well, that's good. we don't need any lawsuits.
Woo! Influenced.
Influenced.
Yes, this is the word.
That is the terminology you need to use, sir.
Eyes shift.
What was that?
It said eyes shift.
Mhm.
Shift.
Yeah. Loosen the collar a little bit.
Now, going into the movies for a little bit, what are your criteria for doing a movie on the show?
As far as riff factor goes, it's what I describe as outright zaniness. That's generally what I tend to look for in something ideal. We actually are considering doing an episode of Star Trek: The Next Generation, and which sounds very strange, but it's a particular episode in the first season where they go to this planet, and it's this planet of very horny, scantily clad men and women, and they're just wearing the most ridiculous...
Yes.
You know what I'm talking about. The episode's called Justice, and there's just camel toe everywhere. There's some very...
Well, even more so for TNG.
Yeah. It's just it's impossible to watch it and not go into hysterics, and you can see it on some of the main cast's faces. Like, this is really happening? This is how these people are dressed? Oh my god. They look very uncomfortable. And it just has this hysterics. So stuff like that, where there's just something that clearly was intended to be, original or out of the box, and it just didn't sell.
No.
It just didn't work out, and the results are, visual hilarity. I actually did a pass at it for a riff script last night, and it's one of the easiest things I've ever done. I almost had the whole thing riffed in one night, which would be a record for me. But getting back to more of the stuff that was on MST, movies like that, older public domain films, or just older films in general, I tend to gravitate toward stuff like, let's see, what would be a really good example? Gosh, they covered so many different genres, and they always seem to pick the perfect movie for that genre of schlock.
Yeah.
Like if I came across Space Mutiny right now, I would, and I could somehow get the rights to it, I would be all over that. That would probably be my ideal choice, something like that.
I don't know. You could probably get the rights to some other Red Brown movie.
Oh, I'm sure. And they'd be like, "Yeah, okay, $5, fine." Yeah, movies like that. There have been a few instances where when we first started, we were just like, "Yeah, we'll do any movie that comes across this," and we hadn't really gotten into like the nitty gritty of how difficult it is to really produce a good quality riff. So we just agreed to 4 movies right out of the gate, and one of them was called Werewolf in a Girl's Dormitory.
Yeah.
It very nearly broke us, that movie.
Oh boy.
Yeah, and I made the mistake of like, yeah, we're gonna do that, and we put out graphics for it and all that stuff, and I'm glad we did it because it made us a stronger entity. But in the midst of it, it's just such a joyless, gray. It's just spitefully black and white movie. It's just
Slog is the best word, I believe.
slog. Yes. All right. From now on, Werewolf will be called Slog. Yeah. That movie was just horrible.
That movie was though the riffing was great, and I commend you guys for being able to do it. I don't think I could have been a writer on that. I couldn't have sat through that entire movie.
Oh, it's
more than
horrifying.
once, I think.
Oh, and even after we're done with the riffing, I have to watch the whole episode dozens of times to check for mistakes and things and for quality control. So if I never see that episode of my own show again, that's fine with me. I've seen Werewolf in a Girl's Dormitory probably over 24 times. It's horrifying.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
I have a support group I go to with survivors of Werewolf in a Girl's Dormitory. So
That's absolutely fascinating.
yeah, we should have done a werewolf joke in that.
Warwolf.
Pretty sad when the effects in Werewolf are far better than the werewolf in the movie you're currently watching.
Yeah. Yeah. It's sad when the MST guys did better effects than what was in the movie.
That did occasionally happen. Which only made it
their budget was 25 cents and a ball of string.
Yep. Oh man, I can't wait to dig back into everything, and it's coming up on my yearly MST3K binge. I start off with season 1 and everything.
Yes. I need to do that at some point because there's still a lot of MST I haven't actually seen.
Oh yeah, that's not that uncommon. I mean,
so it would have been easier if Netflix hadn't taken off MST3K.
So did they have it set up to where, for normal shows, like they just have everything every episode?
Yeah.
Oh man, I missed that.
for everything they have anyway. So I think some stuff is still labeled as DVD only.
Oh,
so,
okay.
Like Drawn Together, I believe, has a couple episodes labeled as just DVD only.
That's weird. Yeah, okay. Because there are a few episodes of MST still on Netflix, aren't there? Here and there.
No, the only thing still on there is the movie.
Oh no.
Yeah, They took everything else off.
Wow, they must have just done that. Crazy.
Yeah, it was about a month or two ago, I believe.
Oh, man.
It was pretty recent. It really irritated me because I was going to show my friend Werewolf.
Oh yeah.
My favorite episode, and
that's no good.
Anyway, but since we do get into speaking on the writing process, please describe the writing process for your host segments. Like, what's the impetus for a lot of the jokes there?
Well, it's different now because we're doing season 2, and we've gone, we do occasionally throw little jokes here and there that are based off the humor of the short film we're riffing on, since we do short films as opposed to full lengths at the moment. Back when we were doing the first 4 episodes, we would generally, pick if you want to call it the prologue or intro host segment, would be just anything. And we haven't started the movie yet, so it could be we would just start throwing things out there that maybe irritated us and we wanted to make fun of, and that part was really, really rewarding. Just be like, oh man, Starbucks, that place pisses me off, let's make fun of Starbucks, and we did that. But then after that, we generally kind of peg something in the movie that's just a little bit too WTF-y and really make a statement about that when we come back from the film for a host segment. But I generally write almost all of the stuff that's out of the theater myself, and that's been a real challenge for me. Thankfully, I think I've come a long way from the beginning. Things are, if you go back and watch like our original stuff, it's pretty clunky, but as you go along, it gets a little bit better. But we generally approach that with when we first started, it was kind of a SNL vibe. We actually had a laugh track on our first episode, which is a horrible mistake.
I've heard about that, but I haven't been able to watch it.
The infamous laugh track. Yeah. That did not go over well, so that was gone by the second episode. I watched a lot of sitcoms in the 90s, and I don't know, it was just, I was like, oh, we're kind of doing a sitcom. Let's have a laugh track. That'll be different. And one guy wrote in and was sad that we got rid of it, as opposed to like 50. So that was not a hard decision to make. But yeah, that was the kind of vibe we were going for. We wanted it to be kind of a sitcom, but also incorporate the sort of skits that were the mainstay on Mystery Science. But yeah.
Yes, indeed.
Indeed.
Yeah. Let's see. Taking a sip of water real quick because my throat's starting to get dry.
Oh man, I've been chugging water the whole time.
I try to drink it as little as possible because then I'll just be sipping on it the whole time.
Oh yeah, if you're hearing me do that, let me know and I'll cut it out.
Oh no, I didn't know you were doing it. So.
Haha, I'm sneaky.
Suave.
That's right.
Now, and by the way, I would have put this part in. I would like to bring up the comics real quick, if that's all right with you.
Oh yeah, that's more than okay with me.
So I forgot to put it in the question list, chiefly because I didn't know there were comics until just today. Because apologies, I don't go to your website that often. I usually just check it out on Riff Tracks.
No, it's fine.
Yeah. So you guys have comic books out for Incognito Cinema Warriors. Tell me about that. Like, how did that get started?
Oh, well, many moons ago, before I, did the puppet show or was in a band or any of the other things I've done, I wanted to be a comic book illustrator. And I picked up a guitar in high school and forgot all about that and kind of lost a bit of my ability. So we started, we got a hold of this really cool program that I wrote an algorithm in, and it goes through and does all kinds of crazy stuff to photos, and it ends up looking somewhat similar to kind of stylized comic art. And we did that to some of our pictures, and I got the wild idea that since there's a 5-year gap between our first season and our second season, why don't we fill in some of the plot pavement with a comic book series? And that's just kind of how that got started there. I always wanted to do a comic book. I never got really a respectable one done when I was a teenager, go figure. So that was just a personal thing for me. I really wanted to get a comic book done, and I figured, oh, hey, Incognito's going pretty well. We have an established fan base. Some people ask a lot of questions about what happened in those 5 years. So let's fill it in with a comic. And just got the last page of the new issue done today, and that should our printer has about a month of turnover time, so that's unfortunate. But it should be out next month, and you can pick that up on our website. So we're gonna keep doing them as long as enough people keep buying them. So we sold just enough of the first one to warrant doing the second one. So we'll see how this one does.
I can't wait to read them personally. I'll probably get them very soon as I have money.
Oh, thank you. We need money.
We all need money.
Don't we?
Ain't it the truth?
Yep.
MSTieCast t-shirts available now.
That's right. We're currently doing a fundraiser for we're gonna get Topsy, one of our puppets, shipped off to this really cool studio up in New York, and they're gonna put fully animatronic eyes in his noggin for us. We're pretty excited about that.
Neat.
Yeah.
That is pretty rad.
Yeah, it's getting complicated, man.
I've only built one puppet, and it was made out of water cooler with glasses on it. I'm actually looking at it right now.
Oh wow. Is he looking back with cold eyes?
Yeah, well, not eyes. A cold head.
A cold head. I don't look at you with my eyes. I look at you with my head.
So, of the series so far, what is your favorite episode that you have done?
Oh, well, that's probably a toss-up between the third episode in our first season. We did a really strange movie called Bloody Pit of Horror. And it's interesting because Riff Tracks would then go on to do it a few years later after we did it. And it was just one of those movies that had some zaniness in it. It had a lot of WTF moments. Things just didn't register the way they were supposed to on screen. There was a lot of overacting. It was an Italian movie. It actually starred Mickey Hargitay, who you'll remember him from well, if you saw the episode before that, Lady Frankenstein. He was I think he was Mr. Universe back in 1950 something. And it's funny because he's actually the father of Mariska Hargitay, who is a detective on Law and Order SVU. So if you ever watch that show, you can just remember that her father did a lot of cheesy movies that are worthy of the MST3K treatment. But yeah, that's my favorite, Bloody Pit of Horror from the first season. We've actually been trying to set up a live riffing of us doing that at a local theater here. That one came out really... It really was a fun episode for me because the host segments really played off of the movie, and it introduced... well, actually, no, he appeared in the episode before this. Nick Evans, he plays the villain in the film at the end, host segment, and he just knocked it out of the park. If you want to go check out one of our episodes and you really want to see one that's a little bit closer to the MST3K world, go check out that one. I think that's probably our strongest offering as far as the full length are concerned. When it comes to our second season, I really enjoyed a little short film we did called Soapy the Germ Fighter. Have you seen that one?
Yes,
Yeah.
that was very well done. I actually think it's a toss-up between that and the Great American Chocolate Factory.
Oh, you like that one? Great.
In terms of what my favorite of your shorts are.
Thank you. Cool.
It's no problem.
Yeah, I like the ones that have the bizarre characters. I think those resonate with me the most when we spoof one of the characters from the films. That's always kind of a cool crossover to see another actor portraying another idea of that character. That's fun for me. So those are kind of my favorite episodes.
Interesting. Now going back to MST3K for a minute, because we're closing up on the end of our session, unfortunately.
No. Already.
What are your top 5 favorite MST3K episodes?
It's actually pretty easy for me. My number one is easily The Final Sacrifice.
Mm-hmm. Good choice.
Yeah. I mean, Rosdower, I don't need to say anything more. I mean, that character, that guy, just made that whole riffing experience for me full of joy. And that one in particular I put at the top because there's a riff in that film that Crow says, and it is the riff that gave me that moment where I was like, I think I want to do this. It was they just got away from the idiots in the hoods, and Crow just kind of offhand says, "So, Rosdower, is that a stupid name?" I just loved that. So, Final Sacrifice is number one for me. And I think there's a YouTube video you can go look up of the guy that played Rosdower. I think he became a country singer of some kind, Canadian country singer.
I believe so.
Yeah, I don't know if you've seen that. He's playing some bar somewhere, and it looks like it might be a bit depressing. I don't know. I don't really remember the clip that well. But yeah, that's number one for me. Number two is probably toss-up between Time Chasers or Werewolf for me.
Werewolf?
Werewolf. Yeah, I love Time Chasers. That was I actually went back and listened to some of your older episodes. You had the director of Time Chasers on, didn't you?
Yes, he did, and he sent us free stuff.
That's very cool. That
He
was
sent
really
us Castleton shirts and posters,
oh, that's
so it was
awesome.
very cool.
Yeah, I love Time Chasers. That's one of my all-time favorites. It was really interesting to listen to him talk. You guys have had some pretty awesome guests on here.
Thank you very much. It's always really nice when we get someone from MST3K or related to MST3K
Mm-hmm.
on, because we're able to talk about these people. We're able to talk to these people about these episodes that we love for the show that we just,
Yeah.
love so very very much.
Yeah, you get a lot of cool facts you probably never would have gotten otherwise. It was really interesting. You guys interviewed Sampo too, didn't you?
Josh interviewed him. I
Oh,
sadly
okay.
was not able to be there due to a
Oh,
family
okay.
thing, but he interviewed him, and then I did the intro in post.
Gotcha.
So
That was a really interesting one. I really enjoyed that one too. Um, Three's probably overdrawn at the memory bank, and I love that one just because I didn't have cable when I was growing up, so I watched a lot of PBS. So I was used to that, sort of that PBS cheap look, that bad frame rate stuff, and then you throw all those actors in together in that movie. Raw Julia. What was he doing there?
overall, Julia.
Oh, I know. I feel so bad for that guy. Street Fighter, overdrawn at the memory bank. He's a great actor. It's just I don't know. Maybe he was calling in a favor. Um, but yeah, overdrawn at the memory bank. That one's really fun for me. Um, some people I've heard just like can't stand that movie even with the riffing. That one doesn't register for me. But
I really enjoy that one, but I can see why someone wouldn't be able to like it. In the same way that someone couldn't really get into classic Doctor Who for the same reasons, that it's just
yeah,
so
it's so
low budget and kind of cheap looking. Even by MST3K standards, it's very cheap looking.
yeah, it's got that sort of really bad British frame rate that we Americans can't seem to digest very well, and it's got that PBS look to it.
Today on BBC Full.
Yeah. Oh, don't do it. I'm seeing it now. For probably Incredible Melting Man. That one's always made me laugh quite a bit.
Yeah,
The gag.
that's a silly one.
It's very silly. The one I love the shot where the guy there's kind of a unintentional forced perspective joke where the guy's on the log.
Yes,
I love that one. That one's always gets me.
that's a great one.
Ted Nelson. Yeah, that one really cracks me up. And five, I probably would have to say Space Mutiny. That one. I mean, that one's pure hilarity to me.
Big McLarge huge.
Oh man, yeah. That's another thing, and just a testament to those guys. Doing a show inspired by that. I've got a new appreciation for just the genius of the writers on MST3K. Not just to be able to come up with such great variety, but to do it so fast. I mean, they had about a week, I think, to do each episode. I can't even wrap my head around that.
Brick hard meat.
I know one. I'm trying to think of one. It's been so long since I've seen it. It's been about a year now. Thick McLarge Huge. I think you already did that one.
Yeah. Butch deadlift.
Bob Johnson. Wait. um, yeah, so those are my top five. Final Sacrifice, Time Chasers, Overdrawn at the Memory Bank, Incredible Melting Man, and Space Mutiny.
Very, very good list.
I like it.
And into the future of Incognito Cinema Warriors.
Oh boy.
If you could do any movie, like if you had the money to license any film to do for the show, what would it be?
Well, for about a year and a half now, we've all agreed we would like to do Zardoz. Which I've heard Mike Nelson has said he will not touch that movie. I can understand why. There's some yucky stuff in there, but I think Zardoz probably. But if money's no object, I would say one of the Resident Evil films because I have an endless supply of Venom for most of those films, as I'm an avid gamer, and those movies could not be more disconnected from the video games that they're supposed to be based on. That Resident Evil is another thing from my childhood that's actually incorporated into Incognito, with the zombies and Corpse, which is sort of a nod to Stars from Resident Evil. Those movies just irk me, but I don't know if it would be completely wise to riff on something you just hate to the core of your being. It might just end up being screaming. So, but probably Zardoz or one of the Resident Evil films would be the answer on that one.
Yeah, I would actually love to see you guys take on either one of those, and Zardoz would make very much sense because it is a post-apocalyptic story.
Sure, yeah.
You know, it's got the weird sci-fi elements. It's got Sean Connery and a mankini.
What were they thinking? Like, I would love to be a fly on the wall when, Connery first saw the wardrobe. Like, whoever brought that in was like, here you go, Sean. What?
My day has come.
Yeah, maybe he was all about it. That would have been even funnier. Finally.
Ladies. The giant floating Zordon head.
Yeah, that dispenses very strange wisdom.
Penis is evil.
Wow, God, this is so much. Just and then the segments with the head that's coming at you, blacked out. It looks like Red Dwarf almost. It's just so strange. It's just one of those wonky movies, and it would give us somebody in our camp would be unfortunate enough to have to wear. I'm sure we would parody Connery's wardrobe at some point.
Well, naturally, it'd have to be you because you're the human host.
Well, you see, I always find a way to work around that somehow. But eventually,
I'm sorry.
Eventually, I'm going to have to bite the bullet and do that. I know. Time to hit the gym.
Lock and load.
Never happened. But
come on, if it was good enough for James Bond, it's good enough for you.
I don't know if people want to see the hairy mashed potatoes I'm hiding underneath that that costume.
Well, you also get the sweet gun and the ponytail, so.
That is true.
And the boots.
The boots. All right, the boots seal the deal.
Yeah. I wasn't on board until you offered the boots.
Now I'm all for it. Yeah, so
all right.
Zardoz are one of the Resident Evil flicks, one of the really, really bad ones.
Yeah, I would love to see you guys tackle Zardoz in some way, shape, or form, even if it's just an audio iRiff. I would be all for that.
Yeah, people have been suggesting that to us, and if we had a little more time on our hands, if doing the rest of the show isn't so demanding, we would jump all over that. And we actually have a few little mini episodes that we're going to be releasing in a few months. It's stuff we really can't put on DVD. It's not public domain stuff, but it's stuff YouTube seems to be okay with having on their website in its entirety. We're gonna do a episode of Jason of Star Command. I don't know if you're familiar with that film.
I am familiar with Star Command. I actually met the guys who did it at MomoCon a couple years ago, and I see their booth every year.
Oh man,
so,
yeah, we're gonna
very cool guys.
Well, don't tell me that. I'm gonna feel bad. We're gonna do their first episode, and we also are doing something a little more outside the box. We're riffing a bunch of cutscenes from Metal Gear Solid 2, Sons of Liberty, and we haven't quite decided if we're going to do it yet, but we do have quite a bit of riffs written for Justice, that episode of Star Trek: The Next Generation. It's a little too tasty to resist.
I can't wait.
Yeah,
because I recently got back into Star Trek in a big way. I'm actually almost done watching all of Deep Space Nine.
Oh, cool.
So I cannot wait for Justice.
Yeah, Netflix has allowed me to get a lot of more bragging rights. I guess they're not as cool as they would have been back in the day, but I can say now I've seen every single episode of every Star Trek series ever, thanks to Netflix. And
since that includes early TNG, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I actually just got the Blu-ray of TNG, the re-release for season 1, and man, some of that stuff is like Spock's brain territory. There's some real schlocky episodes of that show.
Sacre bleu.
Yep. I just finished watching the one where they go to the planet and, you know, the gender roles are swapped and the men are, you know, the weaker, like, second-class citizens. And Riker ends up wearing this, like, horrifying blouse. It's just, oh, I'm like, how did they ever talk that guy into wearing that? They must have put a bonus in his check that week. I don't know.
They let him grow out the beard in return.
Maybe, yo, man, that's a theory. That's a theory. If I do this, you're letting me grow the beard.
He had to do it to regain his machismo.
He had to do something. That was humiliating.
But then he got to direct Star Trek First Contact, so.
Maybe that was part of the deal, too. Who knows?
Now, really quick, because we're almost out of time, but
Sure.
If you could have anyone from MST3K guest star on Incognito Cinema Warriors, who would it be? And would they be a zombie?
Oh, that is an amazing question. I'd probably say Bill, just because he seems like the easiest to approach and the less likely to deck me. I don't know. Yeah, I'm a big Bill Corbett fan. I love Mike. I love Kevin. Their whole body of work, everything outside MST3K. But Bill Corbett's humor really resonates with me, and I would probably want Bill. And I would probably. I wouldn't have even thought of that, but yeah, zombie would be pretty cool. We used to joke about if we ever, got higher up on the ladder, we might want to try to get Bruce Campbell to come on as a zombie, because Nick, who does the voice for Topsy, is a huge Bruce Campbell fan. And so,
Who isn't a huge Bruce Campbell fan?
I'm saying. So yeah, we were like, if we ever get that, one like movie star shot at anybody, outside of anybody from MST3K, we'd probably try to call Bruce up and see if he wanted to play.
Of course, you could also get Ted Raimi, but he would have to not play a zombie.
Exactly. I don't. They're a package deal, right?
We are just about out of time. Thank you very much for appearing. It was really fun talking to you.
Yeah, likewise. We should definitely do this again.
All right. Do you have anything you want to say to the people before we cut?
Keep circulating the, I guess, DVDs now, is what we should say.
Keep torrenting the files, but, not in a legal way.
That's right. Thanks. There's such a wonderful fan base, and so many of them have been very supportive of what we're doing, and it's just a great group of people, and keep listening to MSTieCast, because it's incredible that, I don't know exactly how many years since it went off the air, so it's coming up on 1520 or something like that, isn't it now? MST3K went off in 1999, and people are still talking about it. There's still things like MSTieCast out there, so, I mean, what other show can you really say that about? The fandom's amazing, so just keep it up, people,
All right. Again, thank you very much for appearing, Rick Wolf, everybody.
Thank you for having me.
If you've never seen Incognito Cinema Warriors, you can check it out at icwxp.com or rifftracks.com. Search for Incognito Cinema Warriors. They have how many DVDs out now?
I believe we have 7 available. We've done 8 episodes, and we have a freebie on YouTube where we review the latest Resident Evil movie. It's not riffing, but we review it. So there's about 7 DVDs out that you can grab on our website. So.
Plus the 2 comic books and some T-shirts and patches and, very, very interesting stuff.
Thank you.
So,
hopefully we sell some stuff.
So, for Justin Toner, who is not here, I'm Toby Mobius.
I'm Rick Wolf.
And this has been the MSTieCast. Thank you for listening. Play us out, boys.
Now, poopy.